Michigan State fans wanted Urban Meyer to be their next head football coach. The school hired Jonathan Smith from Oregon State instead. I think this is going to be a mutually beneficial hire, okay? I think it's good. I'll explain why. And is Jon Gruden going to the Hoosiers? We'll discuss. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So, who is Jonathan Smith and what can he do for the Michigan State Spartans? Plus, we'll talk about Jon Gruden. Gruden rumors. We call them groomers, right? They always pop up every year. We'll talk about that, whether he's going to Indiana. And we'll have Tuesday tweets. It's always good. It's one of my favorite segments each and every week. So hang on to the end. Be sure to subscribe. If you haven't yet, right down below, click it. It's easy. It's simple. It's free. And follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you'll get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right off the bat, I think Michigan State hired a good football coach in Jonathan Smith. Of course, he's going to replace Mel Tucker, who was fired this year. I also think this is a great move for Smith. That's why I said at the top, I think this is mutually beneficial for both sides as he comes in from Oregon State. Look, the Beavers have no future, right? Oregon State and Washington State were the last two schools remaining in the Pac-12. Everybody bolted, and they were the last two left with nothing. All right. They have no conference. So USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington, they're coming to the Big Ten. And so with that kind of a scenario, try recruiting under that scenario. Good luck there. And have you ever been to Corvallis? Good luck recruiting there. He's done a good job. He's built a program. Okay. He's about 500. We'll get into that, but the last couple of years have been pretty impressive out there. So if you can't beat him, join him. Come on over to the Big Ten one way or the other. So let's take a closer look at this hire. Smith he's a good young coach. He's got some Power 5 experience, obviously being at Oregon State, very respected. He's only 44 years old. And while everyone was ignoring Oregon State, Smith had the Beavers ranked in the middle of the top 25 all season. They went 8-4. Very respectable. And he's been at Corvallis for 6 years, 34-35. It's his alma mater, so about a 500 coach. And he used to play quarterback there. But here's the intriguing part. Even though he's a game below 500. Since 2022, he was 18-7. He was the co-Pac-12 Coach of the Year in 2022. And that's when Oregon finished 10-3 and finished ranked 17th. So you know what that tells me? That tells me here's a guy. He can go to a school out in the middle of nowhere out there in Oregon and playing second fiddle to Oregon at Oregon State and started off slow, built momentum, and by the last couple of years, he was rolling. That tells me he can bring guys in that are his guys and that he can develop them. He's a developmental coach with consistency and just hard work. And, he's not going to get the 5 stars out there, but he did pretty well with what he had, and he should be commended for that. And I think that part of the resume is what attracted him to Michigan State and vice versa. So he's had particular strength at the line of scrimmage. His rushing offenses are good. His rushing defenses are good. So once the board of Michigan State trustees make the final approval, the hire, the coach will have the official presentation, the press conferences, and all that stuff. That's coming. Of course, the school fired former coach Mel Tucker on September 27th after a sexual misconduct accusation. Tucker was owed $79 million from his contract with the school. The school says it fired Tucker for cause. It doesn't owe him anything. Tucker and his lawyers have taken steps to sue for wrongful termination. So a lot of money maybe going out there, tied up in the lawsuits, maybe with the contract. So maybe they couldn't afford it, Urban Meyer. They probably could, but I don't know how serious that ever got. We talked about that here quite a bit on this podcast. So Marlon Barnett, of course, took over after Tucker was fired as the interim head coach. All the coaches were informed their services are no longer being needed. They make the hire with Jonathan Smith. We have since learned that Marlon Barnett will be back on the staff. So I think that's pretty impressive. And finishing following Friday's 42-0 loss to Penn State, though, the Spartans finished 4-8 overall. But this is what we're working with moving forward. Some have suggested that Jonathan Smith comes from the mold of the previous former head coach of Mark D'Antonio. Again, just steady, consistent, develop guys. And, steady and consistent. I don't know if that's part of college football anymore with the transfer portal. I don't know. There are going to be a lot of teams out there are going to have brand new teams each and every year, just shuffling guys through. So we'll figure it out together to see what works. But anyway, he does have a knack for developing players. So that's definitely good for him. Also speaking of developing players, it's kind of how he was as a player, come to think about it. He was a walk-on at Oregon State and then led the team as their quarterback to 11 wins and a top 4 finish in the polls in 2000. He's the epitome of the developmental player. And then he coached for 4 seasons under Chris Peterson as his offensive coordinator at Washington. And one of those Husky teams made the college football playoff in 2016. So he's got a nice resume. Michigan State, this is a good hire for them. And I think it's a good job for him, too, to go. It's a good time for him to leave Oregon State and go to Michigan State. He also coached at Boise State, Montana, and Idaho as well. He's never coached in the Midwest or recruited in the Midwest. So that'll be remains to be seen how he does like that. But like I said at the top, I like the hire. It's good for both sides. I do have one question, though, and you Spartan fans can help me out. And I get a lot of comments from you guys a lot. Let's face it, Michigan State, whether you want to admit it or not, they got this little brother complex, and they hate it when other people say that they're the little brother of Michigan. But at times it could feel like Michigan State is a second thought to Michigan when it comes to press coverage, maybe in the state of Michigan, maybe with the Detroit Free Press, maybe with podcasts like this that talk about Big Ten schools. It's all over the place, right? So my question is, if that's true, or if you want to shake that perception, why have the news leak of the Jonathan Smith hire? I found out about it at halftime of the Ohio State-Michigan game. That's when it started leaking. And then it was some sort of official announcement after the game, or it was totally leaked at that point. And I'm thinking, if you want to make news and you want to make a big splash with your new head coach and your new direction with the football program, why are you making this announcement on the Saturday of the Ohio State-Michigan game when that's going to grab all the headlines in the state of Michigan? Every newscast is going to lead with it. The Detroit Free Press is going to lead with it. All the national shows are going to lead with it. Why not wait 12 hours, wait till Sunday, make your announcement and make your big splash on Monday's media? Why? I don't get it. That one, somebody explain that to me, how that worked out. Now, I know a leak is a leak, but leaks only happen because people want them to happen. You tell me the athletic director and the coach can't just put a lid on this for 12 hours and let all the media cycle run through the Ohio State-Michigan game. Then you make your announcement and get your big headlines. Why not do that? I don't understand that. Somebody explain it to me. You can hit me up on Twitter or X at Talk Big Ten, number 10. Comments here on YouTube as well. Hey, don't forget our website, Talk Big Ten. That's number 10.com as well. All right. That's not the only change in the Big Ten. Of course, Northwestern, a little more than a week ago, made interim coach David Braun their head coach, permanent head coach. Great job for them. Got them 7 wins, a 1-win team. Then the hazing scandal, then the coaching firing, and all the changes. If I would have told you 7 wins for Northwestern this year, you probably never watch this podcast again. He's like, he doesn't know what he's talking about, right? So great job there. And now all eyes are on Indiana. Athletic Director Scott Dolson in Bloomington after firing Indiana football coach Tom Allen after 7 years. And the Big Ten is changing quickly. It's adding teams, and they're good teams. I mean, the wins are going to be harder to come by, even for the great teams, okay? Plus, the transfer portal is going crazy. Players in, players out whenever they want. It's getting more and more active. It's not going away. Name, image, and likeness is very important. Get these kids paid. I don't know that the nil situation at Indiana is as developed as it could be or at other schools. These are critical factors. And this is also Indiana's first true search for a head coach in 13 years. Tom Allen was already on the staff when he got the job 7 years ago. So the question is, will Indiana go after a big name coach to try and compete and make a statement in football? Or are they going to hire, the mid-level coach, the guy from the MAC, or somewhere like that? It's his turn. It's the next guy up. We'll see what he can do, get his first Power 5 coaching job. It's a tough decision. I'm just asking the questions. I'm not being critical. I know what reality is, and I know what the goals are, and we'll see which way they go. Having said that, there are several reports that have listed former Buccaneers and Raiders head coach Jon Gruden as a big wild card candidate for the head coaching job at Indiana. Wow, what a splash that would be, of course. Jon Gruden, he's won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was with the Raiders. He lost his $100 million job with the Raiders in 2021 when his homophobic and racist emails were leaked to the media. Gruden is currently embroiled in a hefty lawsuit versus the NFL over that matter. Some people think he may even have a case. We'll see how that plays out, but that doesn't really pertain to what's going on at Indiana. But there was a report out of The Athletic that said some key bigwigs at IU are in favor of making a hiring splash with Jon Gruden. So stay tuned for that. Let you, as you may know, if you want, I'm an Indiana grad. My antenna is up on this one. So if anything happens in that direction, I'll certainly be glad to let you know. Other possible candidates may include Michigan offensive coordinator Sherrone Moore. He filled in for 4.5 games for Jim Harbaugh during a 6-game suspension. They won them all. Those games included some high-profile games against Penn State on the road, and, of course, this past weekend's game against Ohio State. Another good candidate, Alabama offensive coordinator Tommy Rees. The job he has done developing Jalen Milroe, the quarterback out of Katy, Texas, has been phenomenal from where he was to September to now. He's only 31 years old, though. I mean, I don't know if that's a negative or not. And then you go back to a guy that I talked about. Hey, how about a mid-level guy from the MAC? It's his turn. Next guy up. That might be Jason Candle from Toledo. He's won 60 games there. He's been there for 9 years. It's been stable. He recruits the Midwest. He's won multiple MAC championships. He's coached in several bowl games. It's a nice resume. Will it make a splash? Will you be able to compete with the Michigans and the Ohio States and the Penn States and the Southern Cals and the Oregon and Washington? I don't know. You never know till you know, right? Until you get your chance. Paul Chryst. Maybe that's another name. This is the former head coach at Pitt and Wisconsin. Remember, he was kind of suddenly fired at Wisconsin last year. They then went and hired Luke Fickell. They felt like he wasn't moving forward anymore. Overall, he had a 43-18 record in the Big Ten. That's pretty good. He won the West Division 3 times, and he also had a 7-2 bowl record. That's a nice resume. It's a very nice resume. There are guys like Jake Dickert at Washington State. He might be interested in IU for the same reason that Jonathan Smith was interested in leaving Oregon State to come to Michigan State. The Washington State is a Pac-12 team without a conference. Very questionable future. Maybe he'll want to go. Another guy I thought about is Dan Mullen, former head coach at Mississippi State in Florida, right? Now you see him on TV all the time. And, he won at Mississippi State. Then he comes to Florida. And he wins 10 games in his first 10 games first year, 10 games second year. Everything's great. Had a bad third year, fell to 5-6, and they fired him. What have you done for me lately? Oh, I just won you 20 games the previous 2 years. I'm not allowed a down year to kind of transition. Nope, gone. So I don't know. Maybe that'd be another guy you want to look at. But anyway, Scott Dolson, athletic director at IU, he'll figure it out. We'll see which direction the Hoosiers are going there. We love your comments on that situation too on Twitter and on YouTube as well. By the way, fun story about the Big House Saturday, Ohio State, Michigan. You won't believe how many people were kicked out of that game. Have that story coming up, plus Tuesday tweets. It's all on the way in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. It's $150 if your team wins. So if you're thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time than now to get in the action. You waited too long already. Get into it. You got point spreads, player props, over-unders. We talk about these things on our show all the time. Maybe you're taking a look at Thursday night's NFL game, Seahawks and Cowboys. Cowboys 8.5-point favorites. Cowboys have been blowing people out lately. Maybe you like the minus 8.5. Saturday, Big Ten championship. Michigan, a 23-point favorite against Iowa. They're going to blow through that, or is Iowa's defense going to make a stand and make it a little bit interesting for a while? You decide. How about the NBA? The Pacers. I've been going on their overs. They're over under their game last week. It was 250. People thought it was too high. It was 309. It ended up at 300. Flying past the overs. Take the over in any Pacers game. That's my personal tip to you. Anyway, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the rest of the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That way, you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, just like a coach putting a team together, small office, people. You got to do the same thing. Everybody's got to fit just right. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. You post your job, you got the purple hashtag hiring frame for your LinkedIn profile. That helps you spread the word that you're hiring. You got simple tools like screening questions, makes it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and who you'd eventually like to hire. That's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. So here's the deal. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I want to thank each and every one of you for checking us out, especially you everydayers that are always with us here on Locked On Big Ten and making us your first listen every day. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And by the way, if you listen on the audio-only version of this podcast, I look at numbers all the time and the thousands of people that subscribe and check out this channel. Maybe you listen 2 or 3 times a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a month. I'm going to ask you to just check us out 1 or 2 or 3 more times a week, a month, whatever you want. Really like to help out. We're doing great, and we can really blow this thing through the roof here if you help us, as you're already part of this Locked On Big Ten program. All right. So back to one more note from the Big House on Saturday between Ohio State and Michigan. 51 fans were ejected from the Big House during Saturday's game. And that reportedly was the most for a single game in 2023, according to the University Division of Public Safety and Security. By comparison, again, 51 ejected in that game. By comparison, 126 stadium ejections took place in the 7 previous games combined. It was a rowdy crowd out there in Ann Arbor. Here's the breakdown. This is fun. 15 ejections were due to intoxication. Duh. Stadium rules violations accounted for 11 more, and 6 were due to misuse of Michigan student IDs, fake IDs, or the wrong person using the ID trying to get in. 5 were due to disorderly conduct. Fraudulent passes to certain areas of the stadium accounted for 4 ejections. 2 were ejected for fake tickets. 2 were ejected for public urination. Got to have that. And 1 for attempted re-entry. Some idiot tried to get back in. Got some more from the Huron Valley Ambulance and the University of Michigan Department of Emergency Medicine paramedics cared for 57 patients for first aid. 33 of those were alcohol related, of course. 21 were taken to the hospital, 7 of those being alcohol related. So those are some interesting numbers. Some very rowdy fans on Saturday at the Big House. Another note, here we are in November going into December. And Big Ten men's basketball, they got conference play later on this week. Head-to-head conference games, believe it or not. But tonight, if you watch this Tuesday night, Georgia Southern's at Michigan State at 6:30 on the Big Ten Network. We've got Rider taking on Maryland at 7 o'clock, and Texas Southern is taking on the Purdue Boilermakers. That's at 8:30 on the Big Ten Network. But jump ahead to Friday, and we tip off head-to-head conference play for the first time this year. Maryland is in Bloomington to take on the Hoosiers, 7 o'clock on the Big Ten Network, and Purdue is at Northwestern at 9 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. So we have Friday night doubleheader conference basketball. It is here. Speaking of the conference, the Big Ten Conference landed 5 schools in the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship. All right, congratulations to all of them. We got Nebraska, Wisconsin, Purdue, Penn State, and Minnesota all made it in the field of 64. Nebraska and Wisconsin get number 1 seeds, so they'll host as long as they're alive through the regional finals. And a fun fact, Penn State, they made all 43 tournaments since it debuted in 1981. Just a powerhouse. Nebraska hosts Long Island on Friday. Wisconsin hosting Jackson State on Thursday. Purdue will host Fairfield on Thursday, and Penn State will face Yale on Thursday. Minnesota going against the 6th-ranked Utah State volleyball team on Friday. I also want to let you know that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today. It's here. It's for you 24/7, covering top sports stories throughout the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every single league, like this show. The show appears on that channel as well. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe there as well. The first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Always love Tuesday tweets. We are going to do that. Got the whole list. Maybe one of yours made it. All that's coming up here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's simple. It's fun. It's just you against the numbers. You can pull a group of players together, attach some stats with them, and say they will do more than those stats or less than those stats. And if you're right, you win. For example, with Prize Picks, you can mix sports up too. It doesn't matter. You can let's just take a couple of players. Let's say that Dak Prescott Thursday night for the Cowboys got to take on the Seahawks. I can say Dak Prescott more than 2 touchdowns and LeBron James more than 25 points in his next Lakers game. Both of those happen, you win. It's that simple. It's fun. You know sports. Might as well have some real fun with it. All right, Prize Picks. Check it out. Here's what you need to do. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, so let's take a look at our Tuesday tweets and have some fun with this. Grabbed a handful here that I saw over the weekend or coming out of the weekend. I'm going to put them on full screen here. If you're listening on audio, I will describe these for you. This one, I kind of just smirked when I saw it. I think the Michigan-Ohio State game had just ended, and I see this from at the Big Ten Huddle. This is their tweet. The way too early Big Ten 2024 preseason football power rankings. It's a list of 18 through 1. Got Michigan number 1. Michigan number 1. I'm going to tell you right now. Maybe they will be, maybe they won't. They're going to have like 22, 23 guys from this team drafted in the NFL. So I'm not going to say the word rebuild in Ann Arbor. I wouldn't do that. But yeah, got them number 1, Ohio State 2. Newbies, Oregon and USC 3 and 4, followed by Penn State, rounding out the top 5. I'm looking at the bottom part. Boy, big drop off for Northwestern, back to 15th in the league after the 7-win year the Wildcats have had this year. I don't know. We shall see. Anyway, I thought that was funny. Thought I would add that. Let's see here. This is from @UMGoBlog. It is a picture of the big house with people pointing to the final scoreboard, 30-24 Michigan. It says, good morning. It's great to be a Michigan Wolverine, and Ohio State has not beaten Michigan football in 1,457 days and counting. Now, we have seen a lot of those on social media. Here's one at Barstool OSU. On the bright side, our basketball team is 6-1. That's a positive way of looking at the events of this past weekend. Here's another one from at Barstool Ohio State, a picture of Marvin Harrison Jr. in uniform, and that is something you won't see much longer. They got a bowl game, and he's going to be a very high pick in the NFL draft. Probably a Heisman finalist, although, I mean, I think he'll get invited to New York as one of the 4 or 5 that they take, but I don't know that he'll come out on top. Here is at Jimbo Pete 6. It is a picture of the handshake between Ryan Day and Sharon Moore after the games. This picture says 1,001 words. We also have, here's the Ohio State Buckeye mascot, all sitting down, all dejected, from at Ryan and Cbus. He says, hello, darkness, my old friend. Yes, from the lyrics from the song Sounds of Silence. This one I love. At Swanky Wolverine, picture of J.J. McCarthy making his entrance into Michigan Stadium. It is an overhead shot from a blimp or airplane over Michigan Stadium with McCarthy flying in with the maize cape like a superhero. I like that. And here is at the Chase Man. He says, I really hate the fan base acting like this is some rebuild, talking about Michigan State, of course. He says, if the right moves are made, it will not be. We have talent. And now you have Jonathan Smith as your head coach, and we'll see where we are, whether it's a rebuild or whether it's a reinforcement. We'll see how quickly he can get things going. But yeah, interesting, no doubt. All right. That was a lot of fun. Time flies when you're having fun, right? Tuesday tweets. Many ways for you to interact with me. Hit me up on Twitter or X at TalkBig10, number 10. Also on YouTube with the comments. And don't forget our website, TalkBig10number10.com. More from what's going on in the Big Ten. When we get to the middle of the week, I'm going to start heavily previewing the Big Ten championship game with Iowa and Michigan, among other things. Any more rumors out of Bloomington and the coaching job search? We'll see how that goes. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Don't forget, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube called Locked On Sports Today. Check that out as well. Have yourself a great day. Thank you for checking us out today. Tell your friends about us. And we will talk to you next time. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman.